Manufacturing Matters is an MFG Radio Network production brought to you by GIE Media's Manufacturing Group as industry experts take deep dives into the latest manufacturing matters, whether it's new innovations, products, technologies, and emerging markets that help you understand better why manufacturing matters to you and also to the top companies in the medical, aerospace, defense, and electric vehicle manufacturing industries. Hello and welcome to the latest Roundtable discussion from GIE Media's Manufacturing Group. I'm Jake Kaufman, Senior Editor for the group, and we're happy to present you with some of the top minds in the industry as we present our Leaders in Manufacturing Roundtable. We'll be joined today with leaders from our sponsors, Big Dai Showa, SMW Autoblock, and Lang Technic. Starting off with Big Dai Showa. They are a member of the Big Dai Showa Group and a recognized global tooling provider with manufacturing facilities in North America, Switzerland, and Japan. Big Dai Showa is also the North American representative of Spirloni tool measuring machines, Sphinx high performance drills, MP Tech measuring stands, Takusa spindle cleaners, and Unilock zero-point work holding systems. SMW Autoblock, meantime, is a work holding company focused on achieving customer goals and expectations with the highest quality products and services. SMW Autoblock combines stocked standard product with a highly trained sales, service, and engineering team who consistently provide the ideal work holding solutions to customers across a wide variety of industries. And Lang Technic is one of the world's leading companies in the field of work holding and automation technology. They help machining companies with future-oriented solutions to simplify production processes, to manufacture more efficiently, and to ideally exploit production capabilities. We're happy to be joined today by Michael Herman, Vice President of Sales for Big Dai Showa. We also have Mark Maroka, the Regional Sales Manager for SMW Autoblock, and also John Dobosinski, the General Manager for Lang Technic. But without any further ado, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So let's begin the discussion with Michael Herman over at Big Dai Showa. The first question that I have for you is, since this is the Leaders in Manufacturing Roundtable, let's talk about how you ended up in manufacturing. What was that path like for you?
Well, I started my career path back in the early 80s, and I was actually going to school for a business degree, but I had to subsidize my income, and I started to work in a machine shop. Back then, it was a little bit different. I was again going to school during the day and working midnight shift, learning machines, multi-spindle, single spindles, Coomer, index machines, and I actually liked working with my hands. And I found it a little bit more rewarding than working with numbers. So I was fortunate to be with a company that allowed me to have some training both in North America and in Europe and Japan. So I was fortunate that they sent me to, Japan and Germany for, on-hands training. And in those years, it was the shop floor experience, setting up the machines, working on machines as a setup person, as a lead man, as a programmer, troubleshooting, doing installations, and then eventually getting my own department within Sam's division, which was satellites and missile systems. So that background back then gave me a really good foundation to move forward into, machines and focus in the Swiss machine trade business. And then work with a distributor, which also continued to grow my background, being able to focus with Akumas on machines. So I think that my background had a very technical background, but I made a career switch away from business degree to get more involved with my hands and with the trade. And it has been extremely rewarding for me over the years.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. We'll go to Mark Maroka at SMW Autoblock. I know you said it before. Maroka. Huh? Maroka.
Maroka.
I had it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Mark Maroka at SMW Autoblock. So let's talk about your path into the career of manufacturing.
Yeah, I grew up in a small town that didn't have too much manufacturing. All the manufacturing had left uh, before I got out of high school and stuff. But in the high school, I had metals class, I had woodworking classes, and similar to Mike, like working with the hands and stuff. So I went to junior college and then went to a college in the cornfield in Illinois, Western Illinois University, and got a degree there. And my first job out of college was at a large manufacturer. And within the first year, there was a layoff. So that was my big introduction to the big city here in Chicago, where I live now. That you know, things change very quickly. But my degree was in industrial technology. Like the more the hands-on stuff instead of a mechanical engineering type degree where you're looking at numbers and computers, which didn't exist back then as much. But that's how I got started in the industry. Just enjoyed the hands-on type like Mike, and uh, liked the metals, and got further and further into the career. And it was a lot of freedom at my first job.
Thank you, Mark. So then we'll go to John Dobosinski over at Lang Technic. So let's talk about your journey into manufacturing. How did you end up where you are today?
That started 40 years ago. So but actually on my side, yeah, I came from a small farm town in Minnesota. At that time, it was a small farm town. The I've always had an interest in working with the hands, electronics, computer science, that kind of stuff. So I got into St. Cloud State University for computer science and that, but I really enjoy the electronics. So then I went to it's really hard to find nowadays, called Control Data Institute, and actually work on computer electronics and that stuff. Uh, so actually, the way industry was that there was a distributor who was busy looking for someone that could do CNC controls, and that we were just doing that transition from NC to CNC, and we're kind of like on that other edge, and boy, I thought that looked cool, and I got the market starting off as a service engineer. I was able to start going off and travel. So yeah, reach Japan, different things. It opened up the opportunities. And I guess in that regard, my side of the industry, doing that was that freedom I had as a young kid. Being able to every day be driving to a different site, you see something cool in each shop into. So it's always held my interest. So it's really kind of kept me founded in this industry.
Awesome. Well, thank you, John. We'll return to Mark for our next round of questions. So, what kind of opportunities have you been given because of the manufacturing industry that an outsider from the industry might not realize?
Well, as I said, when I started in the industry, I was going to the same shop every single day. Uh, in the engineering department, processing, working on new machines and stuff. So the opportunities there was learning. I had the opportunity to learn on new technology. I mean, this industry has a lot of technology in it. And back in the mid 80s, CNC was really getting a foothold. Computers were starting. And it also, this industry has afforded me the opportunity to travel quite a bit. I've traveled to Japan, Germany, England, Europe. So the manufacturing world is very international, as with the machine tools and stuff like that. So the industry itself has afforded me the not the capability to learn new stuff, be on the newest technologies for manufacturing, and the travel aspect of that.
Awesome. Did you have a favorite spot that you have been able to travel to?
I did enjoy Japan probably the most.
Okay.
Very different culture, high-tech equipment. I enjoyed that.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So we'll go back to John with the same question. What opportunities has the manufacturing industry given you as far as, things that the outsider from the industry might not realize?
Yeah, I think, for me, I always love the travel aspect to me, so that going to Germany and Japan and Switzerland and that stuff. So it's always been great, be able to see the other cultures that go on. But I think what it's really given me is that I have three boys that are engineers. But I think their mind goes the same way as mine. Every time I walked into a shop, stuff being done. I don't think I've ever been to a shop, uh, where I haven't been impressed with either the owner, what they're putting together. You can see their pride, but when you look at something as simple like a cap on a water bottle and things like that,
Hmm.
and realize the engineering that goes behind that, you're actually able to see things getting developed and those clicking out there. So I've always loved that part. I think that's one of the. I'm kind of a nerdy way when you're sitting at a table and you're talking to somebody, you're kind of looking around, and all of a sudden you're grabbing the lamp and you're trying to figure out. I wonder if they stand and they roll. So I like that. I just like that. I think it's just really neat. Good idea, concept on how things are going to be built. Maybe it goes back to the hands-on where we talked, but you had that interest just to see on how that part was made, how it's done. So
Yeah, it seems like it's an industry that rewards curiosity.
oh, it does, and a lot of great minds. So it's always really fun.
Awesome. Thank you, John. So we'll wrap up this round with Michael at Big Daishawa. What opportunities have you been given due to the manufacturing industry?
Well, I think like Mark and like John, I've had the chance to work around the world and collaborate on some extremely interesting projects. But I'm going to say more so meet some incredibly talented people. A different mindset, a different set of eyes, a different know-how, how to do something, brings a different perspective on how to process. And I think that early on in our careers, we didn't have any boundaries. We were left to, to open the door and to see what envelopes we can push. It's similar to when we were running, I was running my first solid carbide drills. I joke about it now, but I broke a heck of a lot of drills learning how to, become an expert in that field. I don't think, people are given the same opportunities nowadays to break things, okay, and learn. They are expected when they come in to be the experts. So I think that it's more important to get out from your safety zone, meet people, understand a different process, a different way of doing things, and being able to come together with engineering to solve a problem. It's really an incredible industry if you get outside of our island, okay? If you get outside of our state and see how other people are manufacturing, it puts a whole new light on manufacturing.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we'll go to John at Lang Technic for our next round of questions. So, what is the most valuable piece of advice that you have received that might have helped shape your early career?
I think I had one piece of advice where someone told me when you get married, don't have kids, you're going to save a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I didn't listen to that one. But I think I kind of worked at the time. We were kind of more of a commodity. The machine came in. It was like a EDM and that stuff, and we were killing the market on it. But I think the engineers and I should say the service technicians with our team were young, and their whole thing was not to be, you know, uh, maybe going back a little bit with what said is that you can't sit back on a lot of this stuff. And I think when you're willing to take a chance and kind of, yeah, reach out and just get locked into something, but take that chance, kind of go, is that I'm gonna get it taking care of it. So I think that was probably the biggest thing I learned almost immediately out of the gate, and I think that opened up opportunities for me down the road too. So
Thank you, John. So we'll go back to Michael at Big Daishawa with the same question. What is the best piece of advice that you got early on your career that kind of helped shape you?
Never propose a solution until you fully understand the process. Um, I think that has stuck with me, over the years so much is that, we should listen more than we talk as salespeople, because a customer will tell us what the problem is. And a lot of times he understands how to fix the problem, but he's not able to put the equation together. So I think that mindset alone turns you, from just a salesperson into a trusted partner for the customer.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we'll go to Mark at SMW Autoblock with the same question to wrap up this round. What is the best advice that you got early in your career that really helped shape you?
I guess the cliche ones are always work hard, show up on time. But I agree with Mike that the best advice I got was always have an open mind. Always be open to what you may not understand. Try to understand it better. Don't make rash decisions right away. Try to understand the process, the problem, and then ask questions that are leading questions to get you more information. Because in manufacturing, whether you're running a machine or trying to sell tooling or whatever, you got to ask the probing questions so you're learning more and you can be a partner with who you're with.
Awesome. Well, that wraps up this round of questions. So we will go back to Michael at Big Daishawa for our next round. So you guys obviously have talked about how you got into your careers, the opportunities and experiences that you guys have had, and even the best advice that you've received. But for someone who wants to start in the career of manufacturing, how would you advise them to kind of enter, and what guidance would you give them to get them started in this path?
Um, I guess the one phrase that comes up is stay curious, and keep learning, kind of like what Mark said, don't, have a closed mind to it, have an open mind. You have to ask questions. There's a lot of senior people out there with a lot of knowledge that, when they move on, that knowledge is going to move on with them. It's not going to necessarily transition over. So don't be fearful to ask a question, even if you think it's a dumb question. I would say that, some of the younger people that are coming in, should find a mentor, that'll challenge them, and kind of take them under their wing. I think that's really essential. I mean, I've been very fortunate in my career. When I started out in manufacturing, I had a couple, mentors that were lead men in the union, but they let me try a lot of different things. I broke a lot of things. I didn't get hurt. I'm still here, but they sat down with me after the fact and they said, "So where did we go from here? What did we learn?" So, be adaptable to change, like Mark said too. I mean, there's we have different sets of eyes with engineers. They have a different perspective how to look at things than a salesperson does, and table it with them. Another set of eyes looking at a problem will give you a different set of perspective on it. So stay curious.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we'll go to Mark at SMW Autoblock with the same question. What sort of guidance would you offer someone who would want to get involved in the manufacturing industry right now?
As Mike said, curious about the manufacturer, curious about process and stuff, communication skills. You have to have good communication skills, and also get to know your sales rep, your operators, your whoever you're dealing with. Get to know them, because they are the best resource for information and to help you in your career. You got to build relationships, because I've had a relationship with Mike for 30 plus years. I've known him and worked with Mike, so that you establish relationships, good communication, and that will help you in your career to move forward.
If I could just add, I read an article briefly, and I'm going to try to sum it up. That if you're working with somebody and you don't understand what makes him tick, what drives him after hours, you should go to dinner with him and you should go to lunch with him to get a better understanding. And I think that holds true. This is this is a personal business that we're in. And a lot of times people don't want to come out of their comfort zone. But if you find out what makes that person tick, you'll probably find out you have something in common. And the relationship will grow and knowledge will grow at that point.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we'll go to John to wrap up this round of questions. What sort of guidance would you offer to someone just starting off in the manufacturing industry today?
I think both guys said some important things on there. It really is that listen, learn, and make sure you want to your curiosity because the um, you can learn a lot from the existing now. But if you could take and maybe take that knowledge, but keep asking the questions in your mind. There are a lot of times what'll happen is that over the years, we establish certain ways, certain procedures, kind of moving forward. All of a sudden, there's one guy who doesn't know the darn thing about it, comes in and asks simple. All of a sudden you find out everyone's slapping their head going, "Why didn't we do that years ago?" But really listening, learning, and yeah, I think sometimes a little bit one new into it, they want to just charge into it like I can show everybody in the hope that they know everything. I can do it on my own. Well, there's some duties that we're just being quiet into. Uh, yeah, first listen to those ideas. Make sure you first, and just build on that, and keep that curiosity going. Because yeah, soon someone's going to ask you, and you have those answers in your mind too. So.
Awesome. Thank you, John. So we'll return to Mark at SMW Autoblock for our next round of questions. Obviously, we talked about what your guidance would be or how you would, offer guidance to the people, starting off in manufacturing right now. But how do you engage and mentor with that next generation? What are, some examples that you do personally?
I guess in my current role, sales, which all of us are in sales here. You're working with the young engineers, you're working with them, you're mentoring them to have a successful career. You're trying to make their career based upon you're helping them in their company be successful. And if you help them be successful and mentor them of, hey, do this or see this, or even if it's not your product, say someone else has something that will help you be more successful in your company, that company will look at him and say, oh yeah, he fixed all these problems for us. He was a good engineer, and that engineer was working with some salesman, whether it was a product or tooling or work holding. But I'm hoping to make other people successful in their careers, in their position, that they're looked very highly upon in their company.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So we'll go to John with that same question. How do you mentor, engage, and make sure that next generation does get involved into manufacturing?
I think there's quite a bit of showing the benefits of uh, where it can lead and talking through. I watched some gentlemen one time standing in front of the Swiss turning, and they were young, right into it. And, they seemed a little bit out of their mind, I think, in a ways. But having them understand what you're actually doing, you might be thinking you're just running this little demo, but what is it you're doing? Where could it be? Where could it be put into? Uh, I guess there's so much diversity in the industry. So make sure that people can understand that. Boy, you start with this on there. You're a lot of stuff. I mean, I love the industry. I've been, a long time on there, but I think you have to have a certain passion for it. And when you start seeing on how you're bold, the future and the new products, new knee joints, and I mean, you're taking a satellite, so it's kind of exciting to see how it can all build up and out. So I try to have them kind of put that foundation into their mind that I'm doing a lot bigger than just you tomorrow. It's going to really expand. So.
Awesome. Thank you, John. So we'll go to Michael at Big Daishawa to wrap up this round. How do you engage, mentor that next generation of manufacturers?
Well, like Mark and like John have brought to the table, it's sharing what we've learned, from the experiences. I think that we have so much knowledge here, and if I just look at our three panelists here, we probably have close to about 100 years worth of knowledge, sitting on this panel. Um, yeah, you know what? We have seen an awful lot. We know how to apply an awful lot. But again, what I try to do is, we lead in training, in distributor training, in new salespeople training. We try to mentor, young people coming on. And I do believe that there's obstacles there because they want to go to the internet to find quick answers, and they feel that they might be bothering somebody. But the issue is that, we have a good wealth of information. We have some good background, and all they have to do is ask. I think that by getting involved in some professional, organizations, that's always beneficial too, where we have a topic that we can really kind of dive into. Um, so I think that, again, sharing what we've learned, and, again, making recommendations, even if it's the competitors we're recommending, that's what gets us credibility. I don't have a problem recommending, another manufacturer because he builds a better widget than we do. Maybe I don't build that widget, but uh, all you have to do is ask. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you there, Michael. We will go back to John at Lang Technic for our next round of questions. So obviously, Michael said it, so don't get mad at me, but there's over 100 or close to 100 years of experience on the panel. So, John, how has the industry changed since you first got involved?
It's wild actually. Like I said, came in, we were just trying to do that transition from NC machine, and tapes and things falling on the floor and then having to re-roll things up to run it, but to the CD. But I think the biggest thing is that I know everyone's doing the push into 5-axis type of applications now, and we're seeing it grow more and more. The controls themselves are prettier, sexier. They attract, I think, a lot of the younger people into it a little bit more because they do look like, it's that eye candy. It's like a game, they're playing. So seeing that evolution, but I think also is that the complexity of what we need to do daily now, I think, has grown pretty substantially. I mean, with the introduction of with 3D printing, that kind of the market just keeps evolving. And just when you think like your max, uh, go back to another point on there. I mean, you can think about like tools and stuff that you use during machining. What's funny is that, I keep thinking about machines, controls, changing, but that technology for building and making those tools changes every day. The so I guess it's evolved. It evolved quite a bit. I mean, if we go back to what we were doing in the past, it's we optimized our time so much more now, and the complexity and all that stuff. We're able to achieve it simpler because we have a lot more tools in place. So you have to kind of be able to really adapt.
Awesome. Thank you, John. So for the next, we will go back to Michael at Big Daishawa. Like we have said, a lot of experience on the panel. So how has that industry changed since you first got involved?
Well, like John, I mean, we went from manual machines to tape-driven machines to NC to CNC, and now we can go into graphics and we can draw model a part, and we can generate a program. I think what's really captured me is I was on the floor at a customer a few months ago, and the talent just wasn't there. I needed to have a program. I needed a program written, and I've kind of taken a step back from writing programs. I know that Mark can and I can, but it becomes a liability issue. So I've taken a step back. And I tried to direct this individual as much as I possibly can, and he was having some difficulties going back to his engineering. And quite honestly, I put into a chat, an AI chat, the machine, the control, and the cycle that I wanted, what I wanted to do. And it spit me out a perfect G code program that I was just able to show the customer. So I think that's the direction for me that has really kind of brought it home and said things have changed that rapidly, that I know that it's going to change, in the years to come. And that program, a 5-axis program, just by scanning in a part, will probably be about 85% there as far as accuracy, maybe better, but it's still going to rely on people, okay? And we have to invest in training, for people, because that is the one thing that we cannot take away. Controls have gotten faster, controls have gotten more accurate, machines have gotten faster, tooling has gotten better, but it's still going to take a person. So, and that's really evolved too from when I started. We had a setup or a lead man that was involved in drill presses, and one that was in charge of deburring, and one that was in charge of multi-spindles. Now you have to be a jack of all trades, and you have to be able to be so flexible to know those machines. Um, so again, it's going to, I've seen a big evolution, but it all comes down to highly skilled people and trained people.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we'll go to Mark at SMW Autoblock to wrap up this round. How has the industry evolved since you began?
The industry's evolved from no internet, no PCs, only mainframe computers. Now you have wireless communications to the machine tools. You have the AI creating CNC programs for you. You never saw a robot before when I started. It was always in a very high volume type environment. And oh, that's a robot. You don't touch it. That's complicated. Now robots are commonplace. Every company is looking to automate what they're doing, whether they're loading vices, they're loading parts, they're loading chucks. It's just the evolution of the technology, and other things is the speed in which people expect stuff now. The lead times have gone down. You got to make parts faster. You can't wait 4 weeks for something. You need it in 2 weeks. So just the reduction in lead times in the whole industry, that everyone is working on a shorter lead time to market. So that has really changed also.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So we'll go back to Michael at Big Daishawa for our next round of questions. It's time to pat yourselves on the back, because I want you guys to talk about a major transformation that you've helped implement at your companies, something that you're proud of, that you've been able to kind of spearhead in your career.
Well, I have to say the biggest leading transitions is the rebranding of to Big Dashawa from Kaiser, in North America. That really required a lot of alignment with sales, with marketing, with messaging, with social media. We had the identity of Daishawa in the Asian market, but we have the recognition of Kaiser Boring in the U.S. market. So rebranding, I think, has been the biggest issue, to get our strength back. But again, in that transformation, it straightened our brand recognition, being Big Dashawa, and it's unified us, I think, stronger with customers. They see us not only as a small boring company, but they see us as across the board, a full line company. So.
Well, thank you, Michael. So we'll go back to John at Lang Technic with the same question. What is a transformation that you've helped lead at your company in your role that you're really proud of at this point?
I think at this point I think it's for me, it was really important, the employees part of it. Everyone that works for me, I kind of tease everyone, because I tell them it's an old term, but it's an all skate. I told that to Germany too on there, that basically what for me that means that I don't have anyone who's just sitting around, waiting, that we can all make a difference, and we all need to. we're, like we mentioned, we're all in the sales industry from that
Mhm.
first phone call till the parts are shipped out and delivered to the end user. Is that each of us can make a big difference on the impression on who we are as a company. So I really encourage everyone within the team there to be able to be a part of it. You see something that's wrong, let's talk about it. Let's work it out. Obviously, you can't transform, on a lot of these things. So I said, so it might not be an idea that works today. But let's keep it in the forefront so that maybe as we progress, try and keep our improvements that we implement those when it makes sense. So I really don't like seeing anyone just going to come in and kind of, I hate to say it, treat it as a job. Obviously it is a job, but at the end of the day, is feel like they have the opportunity, the next step, and to help us improve and grow, and that's fundamental, I think, and it's a lot more fun.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, John. So we'll wrap things up with Mark for this round of questions. What is, a transformation at your company that you've helped lead that you're really proud of?
When I started SMW, we had a product data management system, PDM system, and we had procedures in place and stuff like that, but some of the procedures just weren't there to checks and balances, So when I was the engineering managers there for a couple of years, implemented some processes that just made our designs better, our processes better, less errors going out to the customer, and better communication with the customer so that you'd have approval drawing meetings, because we manufacture our top tooling that goes onto our standard product, so that the customer can hold the parts. So it's a conversation with the customer that I tried to improve to get them more involved and the salespeople involved of providing a better product to the end user so that they are aware of what they're getting, how it's going to work, and it's going to do what they need it to do.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. And we will actually stick with you for the next round of questions. What is the process like when it comes to introducing a new product and idea, technology from your current role? What kind of, steps do you have to take to kind of get your voice heard at this point?
When SMW generates or creates new products throughout the year, and I'm on the sales side of that. So how they implement new products with us, it's sales training, one-on-one Teams calls, that, hey, we have this, we have these presentations, this is how it works. It's really a top-down, like, this is what's new and why it's better. And, in the sales industry, why is it different than other people's? So that's how we implement and disperse the technology out to the salespeople.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So we'll go to John at Lang Technic with the same question. What is the process like if you do have a new idea, a new product, a new direction that you want to take? What kind of steps do you have to take to kind of get in that direction?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. I think I'm really lucky because the management team over in Germany are pretty young on there, and so they're looking at different ideas and different ways to grow the company out and build. Because obviously for none of us is that you never want to sit back on your so it's kind of nice we've made those investments, but a lot of times too, we find out like for the U.S. market, is our end users, our customers on there need something a little bit different, let's say, or Japan or the other countries on it. So, and where I say I'm lucky is that because we have a great technical team over in Germany on there that when we come back in with an idea, it's only within a day or two that I can have drawings with concept, pricing, degrees, different things like that. Where on my side, what I want to do is that we want to push a little bit more on having people know that we more than like what we have on the internet, more than the catalog. So that's our next battle or our journey, is just to make sure that we can talk about a little bit more about what we do as a company overall and the culture and how we can bring these things, these specialties to market and that stuff. So works pretty well.
Awesome. Thank you, John. So we'll wrap things up with Michael at Big Daishawa. What is the process like when it comes time to have, or not, when you have a new idea or a new product? What kind of steps you have to take to kind of get it out there for the public to see?
Okay, so what I want to say is that there's two different types. We would have special product, which would be custom engineered tooling for a customer, and that can go to market rather quickly because it's based on a design that could be manufactured and implemented, quite quickly. When we start looking at going to market for a standard product line,
Mhm.
that starts with an idea from a customer because obviously there's a demand, okay?
Mhm.
But then I'm going to say that that demand goes to engineering for review. It might go to engineering in Japan for review. And then I'm going to say because of the quality level of the company, we seem to think that things might, all stop, all production stop, like SAP, stop all production. And it doesn't. Um, the developing and the testing is can go on for quite a long time because Big does not put a product out that is substandard. They test it until it breaks. So they have all of the criteria. And unfortunately, in a lot of cases, that might be years. But in the same token, we might be making a simple addition to a product line, which might be a diameter change or something or a length change on it, and that will go to market very quickly with restrictions as far as length to diameter and things like that. Because again, Big does a lot of testing. They will not bring anything to market unless it's proven out. So to answer that, to answer that question, I mean, it's I want to go back in twofold. We can bring things to market rather quickly with specials, but as far as it being a standard product, there's testing, there's developing, and then we have to bring into the course of, training. So it typically then comes back over, and is introduced into the market. Engineering, sales meets with engineering to get a very thorough understanding of the capabilities. And then if I have a couple target accounts, we have to talk about our sales organization that goes out there that says, now I got to prove this to myself that this stuff really works and it says what they're going to do. So we don't really want any hiccups as we go along on this, and the process could be quite lengthy, but the performance results are just intangible. I mean, once we put a product out, it's going to perform, okay? Period. And that's one of our guarantees. 100% guaranteed, okay? It'll perform.
Awesome. Thank you,
So
Michael. So
it's a
we'll
long
go.
process.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you, sir. We'll go back to John then for our next round of questions. What do you see as the next major challenge in the manufacturing industry? What's kind of the next hurdle that you guys have to overcome?
And somehow I get a feeling we all kind of have the same feeling on this. Every meeting, every manufacturer meeting we have, talk about it. But it is really getting the new young people involved into our industry, kind of see where this can take them. I mean, it is an exciting industry, and I don't just say it because I've been doing it. So I think it's something that once the industry should be on a long time ago about dirty industry, dirty shops, and that stuff. But a lot of the shops now are so clean and advanced in the technologies they have delivered on the floor. Really, how do we motivate, uh, the kids as they're coming up through high school and deciding whether to go to technical school or college or maybe directly into the industry? How do we motivate them to actually come and check it out? Because it definitely can be worthwhile for them. Definitely can be exciting for them, and in most cases, it's the same thing day in and day out. There's quite a bit of really fun variety to it.
Awesome. Thank you, John. So we'll go back to Michael at Big Daishawa. What is the next major challenge that you see in the manufacturing industry?
Again with John, it's attracting skilled individuals, skilled people to drive future business. We can pass, knowledge on to people. But again, we need those people to pass it on to. We need to encourage, growth in this industry. This industry, my career, this has been one heck of a ride for me that is changing. And I have to say that, like John said, it started out, decades ago. My father was a tool and die maker, and he did not want me to get into this business because it was a dirty business. That is all changed, okay? But again, we need to get back to a high school level. Is college for everybody? I personally don't think so. I think that people want to work with their hands, they can work with their minds, they know math. There's basics that they can do. But again, I started out my career not making that much money. And I think that right now the generation might want the on switch and they don't want to put in the time to get there. Believe me, you put in the time, the reward is going to be there, the benefit is going to be there. It's not going to be overnight, but the benefit and the gain will always be there. You will always have a job. We have to encourage more people into this trade. That's the bottom line.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we'll wrap up this round with Mark over at SMW Autoblock. What is the next major challenge that you see coming to the manufacturing industry?
Well, I'll be the third person to say it's the skills gap. We're
Yeah.
finding the right people, getting them interested in manufacturing. Yes, I agree with Mike. It's not a dirty job anymore. There's so much technology in manufacturing that people are not aware of. At the same time, the manufacturers are pushing the supply chain of where we're getting the raw materials, where we're getting the precious metals. The manufacturing is a big concern now in our industry. But overall, I think if companies are going to be successful, they have to have good training, continuous improvement programs to get the next generation interested in manufacturing, that we do have technology. It is a career, and we'll get them involved and with the training.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So we do have time for some questions from the audience. So you guys can ask them at the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And the gentleman will be able to answer whatever questions you do have. I know Mark had mentioned that he really enjoyed going to Japan. So to Michael and to John, what was your favorite, trip that you've taken in manufacturing?
Well, I'll just chime in there. I think that the first thing I have to say is having an understanding family that travel is involved, okay? So that you don't get the pressure. That being involved with a machine builder out of Schlierbach, Germany, was probably one of the most incredible experiences that I had, that kind of brought full scope together as far as not only knowing the machine and understanding the machine, but being, able to open up a U.S. office, for them with everything that goes along with it, IT equipment, office equipment, things like that. But I think that two areas that I learned the most, and that was in Shizuoka, Japan, at the Star Microtronics factory on Swiss machines, being able to work at the factory building Swiss sliding headstock machines for 6 weeks. That was key. But I'm going to say also Germany, working with the machine builder was really essential. But having companies that believed in you and wanted to invest with you with education, being able to send you to, General Numerics at that time, Fanuc, Siemens for control training, Index Corporation for machine rebuilding, to get your hands involved with that. Those are the things that I enjoyed the most. Okay. Besides getting out in the field and, meeting different people within our business, that's something that, everybody should, I think, live for, to see a different perspective.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So yeah, John, what was your favorite trip that you've taken in the manufacturing industry?
I think the I really did enjoy Japan too, and that stuff and great people. I really enjoyed Switzerland, and I was at two different facilities there. It was in northern and then also in southern Switzerland during the with two different jobs. But the so really getting to know them. But right now with Germany, I got to say I really enjoy because they take a good time. They host you very well, and yeah, I get to show you a little bit of the sites and everything. So, I to me it's the cultures, being able to see that to work. So I say I really enjoy the whole Eastern on the UK, and obviously I'm teasing my UK friends, their English being bad. Um, but just knowing these people and getting to see the other cultures to me it's just been phenomenal. Probably Japan. I'm allergic to seafood. Japan was probably the harder one. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you there, John. So we'll go, we do have some questions coming in from the audience. So we'll start with Mark on this one. Is there anything you miss about working on the shop floor after you transition to sales?
Absolutely. On the shop floor, I really enjoyed seeing the metal chips hitting the glass as you're turning material off, with no coolant nowadays. So it's exciting to produce a part out of raw material, to the fact that I have a 3D printer, so I still, still make some parts.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. So we'll go to John too. Is there anything you miss about working on the shop floor after transitioning to sales?
it's I think it more when you're on the shop floor or when you're in my case it was with service and that stuff. So I guess is that part about you can walk in there, you're gonna fit it, and then you walk out the door and at the end of the day you do this, and that's uh solve situation, you take care of it, and put your stamp on it. So
Cool. And then
it's a
we'll
bit
wrap
of
up with
a
Michael.
sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
I would have to say that my reality check is that I'm able to still get on the shop floor and work with reps and work with distribution sales. Distributor sales, they might bring you to the door, they might get you the sale, but they're not going to run my tools, okay? And that's where I'm still able to to focus, to get in with the customer, get my hands dirty and run it. And I'm going to say that that's really my saving grace a lot of days, is that I'm still able to get onto the floors.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. So we do have a few more from the audience coming in. So Isabel wants to know, how does hands-on experience help when you're working with clients in the sales profession? Mark, we can start with you on this one.
I think the hands-on experience, what in my current position and everyone's current position, is that I feel that you give credibility of your advice, your tooling, your knowledge has credibility because you've been in their position, you've run the tool, you've held the part, you've seen it work, so that you have the experience to tell them and mentor them of that it's going to work, and it helps you with your clients.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. And Michael, yeah, is there anything you wanted to add to that about
Yeah, I'll just
having
add
hands-on experience?
right. It gives you credibility. Okay. You not only know the part numbers, but you can assemble it. You can tell them the speeds and feeds to run it at. You can make an adjustment on it, and you're not afraid to get your hands dirty and crawl into a machine. So it just adds 100% in the credibility.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. We'll wrap John up with this question. How does the hands-on experience really help in your sales position currently?
I think going back, the same thing as what the guys were saying, but I think that as soon as you get that credibility and you do know it, a terrible sales, someone who sells the solution, that's not a solution. And when you have the hands on, you're going to push that customer, whether or not, let's say yeah, I can make more money if I go this way, but it's not what the customer really needs. Eventually, what happens, that customer knows about it. And I think the smartest salesmen out there in the market are going to sell true solutions, because they know it's coming back. Someone trusts, Mark or Michael when they're out there on the field and they've given them the right solution. That's, I mean, that is 100% the customers are looking for. They want that insight, they want that knowledge, and don't want their money for foolish. No one does. So it brings it back. So
Can I share an experience?
Of course.
Okay, so I was walking, at a shop. I won't name who, but as I'm walking through, they're running a drill, and I listen and I tell the engineer there. I said the drill's going to break. Okay, you got some chatter in the drill. There's some vibration. There's something wrong. You might want to stop the drill and take a look at it. And he pulls out the manual in front of me, and he just says, it says right there in the book, this is the speeds and feeds to run it at. And I said, yeah, but I'm telling you that from my ear and from the vibration, that you're going to break the drill. And he pointed it out again. He said, the book says right there. And I said, fine. And as I walked away, the drill broke, the machine crashed. And I walked over to him and I said, do you know your sales rep's name? I said, if you call him, he'll get you a new drill. Okay, but it'll cost you. But the whole thing is that, we have a lot of knowledge, out there that when we walk by, sure, a book gives you a range from 300 surface foot to 900 surface foot. Okay. What I can speak for Mark too, because I know him, we can walk over there and say, you're running it too fast. The chip form is wrong, the color is wrong, there's something wrong over here. You're gonna break it, you're not gonna get the tool life out of it. If they don't want to take that advice from us, hey, another manufacturer can give them another drill for free.
Perfect. Awesome. And also, this is something that you guys have slightly touched on when it comes to AI. We've seen it, be incorporated on these shop floors. Do you guys see it being incorporated into sales as well?
I will start out again.
Okay.
It is, to answer your question, no, we are not incorporating it into our sales company. Okay. However, I will tell you that I have used it to do comparisons against a competitor. And I will put a simple question in, compare this Big Daishawa product to this and give me a cross reference. And I will tell you that it's frightening how accurate it is. If you lead with a second question, you will get pricing and availability on both items. That is accurate. So again, I think it's all in the form of the question that you ask that you can get an answer. I do see that it potentially, coming in certain strategies where, pricing and availability. Okay. That we have online systems that allow customers to do that. Do they? Not necessarily want to. We've all done AI over the phone. I personally don't like it. But it gets you to a certain level. And whether that answer is correct, you'd have to make the judgment on it. But it is out there. It's getting better, and I just find it interesting.
Okay. Yeah, John or Mark, do you guys have anything when it comes to AI that you would like to see incorporated into the sales side of things?
I got to say, I don't, yeah, I don't see much of it incorporated in, except for the case Michael had pointed out. The but you get that, you get that hair on the back of your neck telling you, oh, it's coming. I know, but how that usage, I guess we're gonna have to see. But it is developing so fast that I'm sure we're going to start finding that sit here a year from now going, we never did that before, So but not much yet. I don't see a lot of.
Oh, gotcha.
And to add to that, we, to my knowledge, are not adding it into our sales process. Obviously, there's benefits on the backside, as Mike and John said. Maybe it's the pricing, maybe it's some of the data analysis and stuff like that. But In the actual sales process, not at this point.
Awesome. So that just about wraps things up. So we want to say a massive thank you to our sponsors, Big Dai Shawa, SMW Autoblock, and Lang Technic. That also means a massive thank you to Michael Herman, VP of Sales for Big Dai Shawa. Also to Mark Maroka. Did I get it?
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Regional Sales Manager for SMW Autoblock, and also to John Dobosinski, the General Manager for Lang Technique. Thank you guys so much for your time, your expertise, and for sharing your experience today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day, guys.
All right.
You can listen to all of our episodes of Manufacturing Matters and Lunch and Learn podcast from the MFG Radio Network on Spotify, Apple Music, and on our websites, todaysmedicaldevelopments.com, aerospacemanufacturinganddesign.com, defenseandmunitions.com, and evdesignandmanufacturing.com.